Welcome to the Always Aggressive podcast. I'm Tanner Lipset here with head coach Tony Ersland. And kicking off, you're number 11, coach, is that right?
11. Hard to believe. Yeah, here we are.
11th season here with the Boilermakers. The 24-25 campaign kicks off Friday night. We head out to Gardner Webb for a 6 p.m. duel. Be live on ESPN Plus. So opportunity for everybody to come out and watch. But other than that, Coach, been at practice. Well, we've been at practice for a while, but
Yeah.
official practice we've been at for about a month now, and we've been at it.
No, like always, every year, the work started long ago. I mean, it started a couple weeks after the national championships, but specifically as we look into this year, man, I've been really happy how we came off the summer. We got all of our freshmen in, kind of got our team where we wanted to be, from an expectation and a standard standpoint. And we've had a really good push this fall from both preseason to now being in season, as you mentioned, for more than a few weeks as we enter our first duel.
It's a really interesting roster makeup. As you look at the fact we got 5 national qualifiers back. We have 9 of our 10 starters back from Big Ten championships last year. And on top of that, we've only got 2 seniors sitting on the roster right now.
Yeah.
One of which obviously being Matt Ramos, which, not a small guy literally a small guy, but not figuratively.
A hard one to replace.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good way to put it. So, I got to think it made for an interesting developmental summer.
It did, and it's interesting to me too. Like, we are still a young team. You can make the case, where, hey, you're only going to graduate, at this point, one guy from your starting lineup, with Matt Ramos. So you look at, well, are you young? But I don't really feel that way. The last couple of years, yes, we were very young, and along with that, inexperienced. While we come back and we're only going to lose one next year, boy, the experience level looks much different. A lot of these guys have been in big matches, big dual meets, qualified for the national championships when you mentioned the 5 returning qualifiers. So, man, I just feel like this team is very much in a different place. Even though, hey, you're losing one, maybe you're younger, but no, we're a very experienced team by and large up and down this lineup, and I think that allows us to start from a very different place as we start dual meet season on Friday night.
How has the leadership component come along? I mean, like we said, we've got a lot of guys that they've been around, but when on paper they're still kind of young. And so, how are some of those younger guys coming along to step up and lead?
Yeah, leadership is everything. When you feel good about your talent, which we do, and you feel good about your culture on our team, you do. And part of that culture is leadership, right? Like, you feel like every man coming into the program needs to understand what leadership looks like and strive to be the best leader they can in the best way that they can. And I feel like we've got some guys. Matt's been in that role for a long time, but if you look, Stoney Buell has really been, active and instrumental in what he's doing with the team, how he pushes the team. Joey Blaze, from being a true freshman last year to now coming into year 2, knowing what this all is. I've just seen, noticeable progression in those guys. And of course, another guy, I would say Grayson Clark, another true freshman who had a huge impact as a true freshman. But, those guys have really taken those roles and ran with it. And the team, credit to them, they're all buying in quickly and receiving, how they're pushed from their teammates, what that leadership looks like, because sometimes it's a pat on the back and sometimes it's a, hey, we got to do better as we look towards what our standards are. Like that, I've liked the response from everybody so far.
Kind of work our way through the lineup. You brought up a lot of guys already, and we know that obviously we know all about Matt Ramos and what he is and who he is, and he has had he's had quite the busy summer and off season with lots of stuff going on. But working north through the lineup there, 133, we got another veteran starter in Dustin Norris, and he's making big strides.
Yeah, I mean, with him, he had a shoulder issue last year that held him up. We had that repaired right after the season. He's come back very strong and looks healthy, and had another great fall. I mean, if you look at a standout in the lower weight, and you just mentioned Matt, like, we have super high expectations for Matt, but Norris, or Norm, as I call him, I guess, for everybody else out there. Norm has really stood out in terms of how he's returned to strong form, I guess. I just feel really good about where he's at and what he's done. He in particular looks really good and has had a great fall.
He could prove to be a matchup nightmare for people with his length and top game, and from that standpoint, as far as he is a big, long, rangy 33 pounder, and I just got to think that when he puts it all together, he could be pretty dangerous.
Yeah, and putting that together, part of it, you mentioned his length. He's a big kid. Making weight for him, he has to be on point. He can do it and feel great and be strong. When it gets away from him, or he's lackadaisical or maybe not on point with it, that's when his performances suffer. So for me, with him, it's that lifestyle. Lifestyle is going to help him feel the way he wants to, so he can execute what he wants to do. Yeah, that's a big deal for him. Is how he's doing the weight.
Just got out of a meeting with Elaine Wanstreet before we walked up here, and told me he's got the. He assured me he's got the plan.
Yeah.
He is ready to go. He even offered to show me the plan. He seems to be bought in and ready to go on this. So I'm excited to see what he's bringing to the table.
Yeah, lot of good feelings, right, on where Norris is at. Like I can't overstate enough. Like I feel good how he's come back from that shoulder injury and the position he's put himself in. So now, hey, it's like make sure, from your self-talk perspective and living the right lifestyle perspective, he's covering those bases. He's going to be formidable if he continues to do that.
Talked a little bit about Grayson Clark, obviously national qualifier, Big Ten, place winner. Kid did great things last year. We're excited to see a year 2 from Grayson. New face at 149, Isaac Rubel, looking to, he won the wrestle off, and we'll talk more about wrestle offs later, but looks to be the guy at 149, and this is a guy that you want to talk about a weird weight journey. Came in, we thought he was a 133 pounder. He wrestled 113 and 120 in high school.
We thought he might have been a 33 pounder, and that he bypassed that really fast.
Very late bloomer, grew like a weed ever since he's been here. 49 as a true freshman in a redshirt year, 57 as a redshirt freshman last year, and now looking to be the guy at 149. What can you tell us about Ike?
Yeah, it's came in raw but full of juice, right, and energy, and still a guy who is going to battle as tough as anybody. He's going to wrestle hard and never concede a position, but does it with a smile on his face. That's the part that I think I really enjoy. He brings that fight to the room, which you always love. But man, he's a happy kid too. Like he's always got a smile, even when things are hard. And I think when you're talking about the culture of your team and how you want your guys to compete, that's what I think of. Hey, have a smile on your face every day when things are hard, but you're going to go sell out and give everything you got, and that's Ike. And he made the commitment this year, to come down a weight class. Thought that he could be competitive there and find his way into the lineup. And even though it's early, he did win a wrestle off, so he's going to get a shot at it. I will say this just about in general, right? We did have indicator matches or wrestle offs as people think of them. This is not the end all be all.
No, of course not.
This is the first stage of that, but Ike certainly has earned the first look. On Friday night with his performance in the wrestle off matches.
Yeah, definitely some good depth for us at 49 with a lot of experience in Jaden Reynolds. He's been the guy before and has had some of the battle scars. I got true freshman Christopher Coates.
Wyatt
Krejcia is coming off of an injury, but he's getting back into the swing of things. So it's nice to have some able bodies at that weight. Going back to kind of Ike, you alluded to it. The guy is Jekyll and Hyde. Like he is, like you said, he is the most happy-go-lucky, nice kid off the mat. Very polite, very thank you, please. And you get on that mat, and he has definitely got some. Since this is a family show, we'll just say he's got some edge to him.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that, and I love it, right? Like competitive fight, edge, whatever you say, he's got it. And again, he's getting to a point in his career where he's starting to refine some of his skills. Because when he came to us, he's a little bit raw, but you can see. What he's about as a wrestler now. More of a game plan, maybe, is the best way I can put it. I think he understands his game plan a little bit better when he was younger. And I tell you what really got our attention is last year, Joey Blaze had to miss a couple of duels during the season, was a little nicked up, and Ike stood in did a great job. I think he won both duels, Big Ten duels, if I remember correctly, last year when he was given opportunities. So, it'd be interesting to see what he can do on a more regular basis, possibly.
You did remember that correctly. He did.
Thank you.
He did win a couple. One of them was extremely high scoring.
Still got it. Like steel trap. Still got it. Don't let anybody say different.
It's quite. I think we say different quite often.
You do. That's why I'm going to remind everybody else out there.
Working up. We've talked about Joey. Joey is. We're going to have plenty of opportunities to talk about Joey this season. He had a great offseason. He looks. It's hard to believe it's just going to be his second year in the lineup with kind of the experience and just the way he approaches the sport.
Yeah. A lot of maturity over the last year.
God, that feels
Joey.
Weird. That feels weird to say about
I know.
Joey.
Joey will laugh when he sees this, maybe too. I don't know, but he's always had the talent and the juice and the work ethic, right? In the he's always had those things, and it's what made him, tough from the very beginning. But I think kind of. Emotionally or where he's at, with his experiences and how he views training and competing now, I think he's thinking on a higher level, and I can't help but think that that's just going to have a huge impact on him this year and his performances too. So really excited for him and what we're going to get out of him there. And when you talk about the work, my man was everywhere. We had a number of guys too, but talk about the Olympic Training Center out with the Olympic team during their last training camp. Traveled, was at Missouri with Jake Soufflone, good friends with Kendrick Maple over there. Got training opportunities over there for a while. Like, the man went everywhere just to get opportunities to work with people, and it shows. So again, we're excited to see that.
He's truly a student of the sport. Was just in watching film with you before we got on camera here. It's hard to believe. Like I said, I'll echo this because it bears repeating. Like, to think of the kid that we got on campus and what a goofball he was just over a year ago. And I'll never forget in that first team meeting when he put his hand up. You asked if anybody had any questions, and you just looked at him and you just told him to put his hand down. Like, you weren't ready to hear it in that. You knew it was something coming.
He had that look on his face too, where I'm like, this probably isn't going to be productive.
Yeah, no,
Joey's just trying to have fun with me right now.
Yeah. Hey guys, where's the scale?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you like to know?
Yeah. He's known for that kind of a joke, and I appreciate it too. Like, it's good to, like I've said about Ike, it's good to have those guys that will keep it light and keep it his time easy. But
he's still got to work on his timing a little bit.
And timing is everything on the jokes. A good joke requires timing. There's no doubt.
Indeed. So, keeping it on, Stony Buell 165. Kid has logged a lot of matches, and he is, he had a very solid sophomore campaign. Has gotten himself into the preseason rankings. Like, he's noticed, people know who he is. Had a good talk yesterday with my friend Earl Smith at Intermat, and he definitely said, Stoney could be ranked even higher.
Yep.
Due to some wins that he's got on his docket. So, but again, a guy that's going to be a veteran in this year's lineup and look to do good things.
Yeah, and he's increased his skill set too. You saw a nice jump in his performances last year because some of his skill sets that really came on and showed, and he knew that he wanted to add some more. So he was another guy who really worked hard this summer to improve, a different attack, a different wrinkle off his hand fight, if you will. So again, I've really liked his focus. He's always had good focus and fight, but man, he knows what he wants and seems just like the blinders are on even more than ever before about what he's after.
74 and 84, I'd like to kind of group together just from the standpoint of there were definitely times last year when I forgot that Brody Bowman and James Rowley were just freshmen.
Yeah.
I felt like just they had both been around. We knew them. We had expectations for them. And, some of which they met, some of which they didn't. But in the same breath, they were just freshmen.
Yeah.
And it was easy to kind of lose track of that at times.
Yeah, I think that's an easy thing to do, and I would include myself in falling victim to that. But when you see what they're capable of, right? When you understand what potential they have, it's easy to rush the development process, right? And that's what I think what we all sometimes wanted to do is understand that it takes time to develop, see the grind of what the Big Ten is week in, week out, what it takes to really excel. You understand that talent's not enough. Like, the mental aspect of what you're doing and how you handle these things is big too. And I think they showed us glimpses. The consistency always wasn't what we always wanted. And that's what we're after this year. And I think if we get the consistency, out in the crowd, I've seen consistency, and that's why I think we're both feeling much better about where they're at now. As a team too, is they've been showing more consistency in practice. It's not just you see something here and there and then it's gone. Like, they both know what they're after, and I think they're more capable of giving that to us on a regular basis now.
Definitely excited to see what they bring to year two. And obviously the future very bright for both of them. You think of the fact that, in addition to this year that we're about to start, they're still going to have 2 more years after that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these are guys that have, like you said, they've shown glimpses and have very bright futures ahead of them.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, and when you're young, like those 2 guys, and a lot of our team was, right? Like, we've been very young the last 2 years, is it's one thing to kind of know what you're capable of, but it's another to understand all of the challenges that come with a season. And that's where I think those guys have really grown a lot, is they understand what the challenges are. And when you kind of know what's expected and what may be coming, it's a lot easier to be ready.
Especially when you talk about that Big Ten grind.
Yeah.
I went in depth through our schedule yesterday, looking at which individual guys are going to have who on their docket, and looking at events like the Tiger Style Invitational, which is a week just over a week away, and then holy moly, I looked at Vegas, and that is just going to be a barn burner of an event, depth at every weight, top to bottom, just unreal. Really a national championship preview.
Absolutely.
When you think about it. And so now that those guys are going to see those events and those things, for a second time, and have more of a feel for it, I think you'll see some changes.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I just, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but that's where I'm at with this team. Is those guys, even though they're only sophomores now, right? They're still young. They know what's coming, and they're better equipped to handle it. And again, sometimes you forget you just can't rush development. We want to, right? Like, we're all built in this world where we want success right now, and you're programmed to think that way, and you should, right? Like, I don't really believe that success has an age limit, but there is a thing like development. And that's part of development, is knowing how to handle the task or the challenges that are coming, and they're in a better position. I know this team, period, is in a better position to do that.
Ben Venati, another guy that fits that mold, going into his second year at 197.
Yeah.
Definitely has, in addition to the year of experience, has physically matured. He's one of the guys I think that took full advantage of Coach Pallara's off-season training in the weight room, and has filled into 197 a little more.
Yeah, if I talked about Norris in the lightweights as a guy that I've really liked how he's come back, I would say in the upper weights, Ben would be the guy that I've kind of looked at too. Like, he's really impressed me with what his game plan is and the authority with which he's willing to wrestle. Like, that's one thing we talk about a lot with the guys. You got to wrestle with authority. You got to take control. You're not out there just floating, trying to catch what maybe comes down the road. I mean, that's not a plan. And I don't think hope is a plan. So Ben is a guy.
We hear that often in the office.
It
Hope's
comes
not a
up
plan.
a lot, I know.
That's an Ersland special.
Yeah, but Ben is that guy right now. Like, he seems very confident in his game plan and the execution of that. So when he's hitting a hole, man, it's aggressive. It's with authority. So again, I like where he's really at. And as you mentioned, his time spent in the weight room was well spent. So he's filled into that weight class where I think I look forward. Again, he's a guy I really look forward to kind of watching him take control of his matches and go to battle.
Last and certainly not least, you talk about the weight room. You talk about a physical maturation of an individual, and I think Hayden Filipovich took it to a new level this summer. Wrestled 197 for us 2 years ago, went back down to what we thought at the time his more natural weight of 184 a year ago, and now he has evolved into a heavyweight of pretty massive proportions.
Yes. Now, a guy, kind of like Ike too. When you think about his development, came in fairly raw, and the first year or two, as you're just trying to figure out where he's at, what his best weight is. Like I said, he was at 97. We thought, oh, hey, bring him down a weight and see what he looks like there. And then, he had a top 10 win, placed at Midlands, really showed a lot of promise. And he showed us like, hey, like he's very capable against great competition. Well, then we had lost our heavyweight in season last year, medically DQ.
Two of them.
Right? Yes, I mean that was a tough year on the heavyweights
Yes,
last
it
year.
was.
And so now going into this year, we're like, hey, Phil's capable. He showed us he could compete against elite guys. Loved the weight, he loves the weight room and was going to be committed. So, I mean, my man, I think he's in the 240s right now.
Yep.
Still kept his athletic, mobility, right? And then he's squatting the house and is filled in where, hey, I think he's going to be competitive at the weight. And just knowing who Phil is, like his character and just kind of who he is, he's gonna do well at that weight. He's gonna give himself chances, just because he's gonna battle in there and be a tough out. And I expect as he learns as the season goes, what he's got to do to have success at the weight class, right? Because it's going to be a little different than 84. He'll get better and better as he makes that adjustment.
He got a little bit of experience late last year. He wrestled in the Wisconsin duel. He wrestled in the Illinois duel.
Yep.
Competed at Big Ten championships and got a little taste for it. Like it was clear last year that he didn't. Wrestling heavyweight's a different ball game. They're
Yeah. And he didn't have the size, right?
No.
At that point, we were in a really bad spot.
He was like 207 maybe.
Yes, and we were like, hey, we needed somebody who's going to go out and fight for us at that, because as you mentioned, we'd lost 2 heavyweights through the course of the season, and again, Phil went in and fought hard. And our evaluation after that was like, yeah, let's get him bigger, let's get him stronger, and then he can handle the weight class and be competitive and give himself a chance, like I said, to help the team.
40 to 50 pound boost, courtesy of Jason Pillar and Elaine Wanstreet. They got in the lab and cooked some stuff up and produced a monster. And so I'm excited to see how he does when he gets out there.
Absolutely. And like I said, for him too, there's going to be a learning curve. I'm not saying he won't have success. I just think, I believe in the fact that he will learn against good competition what it's going to take to have success that he's after. And that'll be a developing thing, more so for him than other guys who have been in their weight classes for years.
For sure. So, alluded to this earlier, we had wrestle-offs last Friday night at Holloway Gymnasium. And I don't know about you, but I was really impressed with the turnout.
Awesome, right? Like, again, it's a wrestle off, and you just don't know always what you're going to get. But, man, we had a great turnout, not only, at the gym, right, people that came to see this team, but then, they were at a social, post duel, and boy, it was just great to see everybody get a chance to talk wrestling as we kick the season off. So I thought it was an awesome way to kick off what's coming.
It was the excitement was, like you said, the excitement was there and it was contagious. I think it was, I definitely came out of that night feeling, there were lots of smiles, there were lots of hugs, there were lots of people who were there. They are very ready to see wrestling back and see what our group of guys is going to do.
Now, and that's the way it should be. That excitement of a season being just around the corner was there. And like I said, how could you not be excited to see the hard work that's been put in? I mean, these guys, as I mentioned, it started a long time ago, but now it's here, and you don't just got to beat up on each other now. Now it's, it's other people, and that's just a great place to be as a competitor.
Speaking of other people, headed to Boiling Springs, North Carolina. We take off tomorrow morning, a little Halloween travel, and Friday night we'll have the Running Bulldogs in their own way. Oh, I'm going to lose the name now of their gym. It starts with a P. I know it does.
My first trip, so
yeah,
I've never zero help here.
I've never been there either. I know you haven't had a ton of opportunity to look at their probable starters yet, as we just got them.
Yep.
Just before the show. But what are you looking for from the guys as we head into the opener?
Yeah, and in the start of the year, you don't know what you're going to get. I mean, especially from the other team. You haven't seen as much film on them. Maybe they're going to have some new guys in the lineup. So, again, it's not as much about looking at the probables that Gardner-Webb gave us. It's just focusing on what we're going to do and what our game plans are. Early in the year, that's what you're trying to do. Is this is the game plan, of how we want to wrestle, especially for the young guys. Refining that. So, again, they have a focus on what they're trying to work to. I think the other thing that's really big for us, something we've talked about in the offseason is, when you train, you always train to the standard. And then there are standards, and those guys on our team understand what those are because we work hard at them every day. But then the philosophy when you compete is we want to keep our guys free, happy, excited, energized. So, the phrase that we've been using is just, compete like or play like you're in the sandbox. So it's train to the standard, play in the sandbox. And that's what I want to see the guys do. I want to see them go out. I want to see them have fun, enjoy executing their game plan, enjoy competing, enjoy putting points on the board, and not focus about a result. If we can look back at the end of the season and however many matches they got, let's just say 30 for a number. If they can look back and say, hey, I'm proud of all 30 performances, then I know we won a lot of matches because there's a lot of talent and they worked hard and they have earned the right to be confident. So, man, for me, I just want them to play. Go out, cut yourself loose, execute, have fun executing, and then when we get back in the room, we're going to go back and focus on the standard again. But that's truly the goal this year for everybody, and it shouldn't change from Gardner-Webb to Missouri to whoever. Man, go free yourself up and play. And that's where I want this team to live because I think if they're having fun competing, they're going to be dangerous.
I know they are super excited to compete against somebody who is not part of the Purdue roster. They're geared up for that opportunity. And so once again, 6:00 ESPN Plus at Gardner-Webb. If you can't make it down to Boiling Springs, obviously you can watch online, so that'll be excited. It would not be an Always Aggressive podcast if we didn't touch on recruiting a little bit. Mm-hmm. It has been a grueling fall as we have had
a lot of visits.
Man, we have had a lot of visits and we've had a lot of good kids. But I think the good news is that we've gotten a few commitments out of the 2025 class. Just got our first 26 commitment.
Yep.
Obviously, you guys know the rules. We can't give names. We can't be specific. Yep. We will when we can. Stand by.
Yeah, right.
But in addition to that, we've got some guys that we're waiting on, and we've had a chance to, spend some time with some really great guys and some really great families. And so I guess some of your takeaways from the recruiting grind of the fall.
Yeah, boy, I think you mentioned it, the grind, it's real. There's been a lot of weekends, so not a lot of days off, right? I mean, you're practicing, and then your weekends are spent recruiting too, and all of those things. And we've probably been blessed to, not just from a talent perspective, but just from who these kids are and who their families are, as you mentioned. That's been maybe the best part about this fall, is the talent's always great. You got to make sure they have the talent to succeed in the Big Ten, but from who they are as people, how they view the sport, and then maybe even more importantly too is, their parents, because they're so heavily involved in this, in their support of these young men. We've met some really great people, and I'm looking forward to accepting more commitments as we go because we are getting down to the end. Recruiting speeds up so much, and as you mentioned, we've got our first 26 on the board. We expect to have a couple more 26s done here very soon in the next week or two, and so just that excitement is there from the culmination of work. Like you're excited because you've put a lot of work in from last March to now when we're on the season, and you're excited about that. Same thing. The same thing goes with recruiting. We've put a ton of work in since June 15th, when you could first talk to these kids, until now. And so you're excited to see the culmination of that work too. So it's all good.
We've talked about this before, but I think it's worth bringing up again is how accelerated this recruiting process has gotten. When they opened up. They opened up the ability to talk to juniors and not just seniors when that June 15 mark hit, and how quickly these kids go through their process and commit places.
Yeah.
It has really changed the way we work and the way we go about building our roster.
Yeah, that's a big deal. I mean, that what you mentioned is a big change, and there's no doubt it happens sooner and sooner all the time. The other thing, though, and I won't go into super depth here, but like what's coming down the road, which is
Oh,
conversations
boy.
that you have to have with these people, like. And when you get into revenue sharing and what new NIL rules will be and how that's going to be executed, this is as much change as we've ever had.
Absolutely.
And so you're trying to educate parents
Mm-hmm.
as to what the future is as best as you can. Because as we have always said, if anybody tells you they know what it's going to be, then, they're lying because there's so much change and so much still yet to be decided
For sure.
that it has made things, I don't want to say more difficult, but you have to be more focused than ever on education with parents and kids because what it's been isn't what it's going to be.
100%.
And so you're just trying to show them and give them an idea so they can make a good decision.
Yeah, I remarked with that we had a group of parents a couple weeks ago, and they were asking me a variety of questions over breakfast, and I said I feel bad for the 2025 kids because these kids that are going to sign here in just a couple weeks, they've gone through a recruiting process that has been kind of a mix of what are old rules and new rules, and now new rules are coming, and so they're going to sign this fall, but when they come to school, or when they come to school a year from now,
Yeah.
the rules are going to be completely different.
Yeah. And that's where we chuckle, right? Because last year, you talk about those 25s. When you think of NIL, right, and the offers we heard some of those kids were getting, and then as you understand what the rules will be going forward, those offers aren't valid. So kids have been recruited and maybe accepted, commits at places for rules that aren't going to allow for the reasons why they may have committed.
It's going to be
a crazy time.
Yeah, it's going to be nuts in the fact that we just, like you said before, we just don't know.
Yeah.
There are too many unknowns right now, and if I had a kid who was a senior in high school and was getting ready to go to college next year and
Yep.
and had a scholarship offer that they'd agreed to, I'd be nervous.
Yeah.
That I would feel nervous about what they were actually going, what they'd been promised and what they're actually going to get.
Yeah, and I think that's why you and I, in particular, along with everybody here, ADs and compliance people,
Sure.
we've tried to give ourselves options. Where I was just talking to a recruit the other night, we're like, tell them at the end of the conversation is, hey, this offer is good no matter which way the rules go, which is what we've tried to do. We've tried to stay flexible that whether it's equivalencies or something else,
Sure.
dollars, the cap and revenue sharing, that we've given ourselves flexibility to go different directions as we need to, where one offer isn't going to pigeonhole them as best we can.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we've, obviously the help of our compliance department, Jacqueline McGill, Tom Mitchell,
Yeah.
Huge assets to us. Our administration has tried to be as forward thinking as they can. And,
Yeah.
I definitely have empathy for them in a lot of venues because they want to tell us stuff, but there's nothing to tell us
Yeah.
in a lot of occasions. And so I know that we're working really hard to have answers for everybody as soon as we can. But it's like you said, I think that their proactive behavior has put us in a situation where we're able to be flexible with our offers
Yeah.
and be able to, I don't know about you. Well, I have a pretty good feeling of what you're going to say, but like it's easy for me to go to sleep at night
Yeah.
and know that the things that we're telling these kids and these families about their futures and about what they're
Yeah.
what we're offering them to be a part of Purdue wrestling, we're not going to have to backtrack. We're not going to have to
Yep.
redo the whole thing.
No, absolutely. And that's the goal, is to make sure that no matter what rules come down the road, that we've put ourselves and these kids in a position where they're safe or protected, as best they can be. Again, because there's going to be a lot more changes that nobody knows or realizes down the road, and we just want to be able to adjust and adapt as we need to.
It's all we can do.
Yeah.
So, excited to share that recruiting class with you for 2025 here in a couple weeks. Some great young men who are going to do great things for this program in the future. But until then, I think we've covered just about everything we set out to today.
There's a lot of ground there, buddy.
It was a lot of ground there. But we will, again, Gardner Webb, 6 p.m. Eastern on Friday, November 1st. It'll be live on ESPN Plus. And just excited to throw the headgear on and see these guys go to work.
That's right.
So until next week, this is the Always Aggressive Podcast. I'm Tanner. He's Tony. And we'll talk to you soon.